Welcome to Idle Red Hands Weekly. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Lyal.
And what is Idle Red Hands Weekly? It is the continent where most of the human nations are based. It is usually defined as the area west of the World's Edge Mountains, north of the Blood River and the dwarf sea fortress Barak Varn, and south of Troll Country. It is roughly equivalent to the historical continent of Europe on Old Earth during the late medieval and early Renaissance periods of human history. And that leads us into something that we just missed, an announcement that Games Workshop made last week. They're bringing back the old world. So Warhammer Fantasy is coming back. They killed it, and it's coming back.
It's coming back in 2 to 3 years.
Right. Yeah. Not anytime soon. Yeah.
Man, they were... It's going to be like a couple years or maybe 3, maybe more. Right. Like, it's certainly a welcome promise, but very soft.
I'm really not sure they're thinking. I'm glad they're doing it. And they said it's going to be the Horus Heresy to, like Horus Heresy and Warhammer 40K.
Yeah.
Fantasy is going to be that to Age of Sigmar. It's going to be what the old people play that want to spend a lot of money on resin, I guess. But
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly have a lot of the old Warhammer miniatures still left. I did a little bit of a fire sale. But I still got Empire and Wood Elves that I could field.
Oh, nice. They showed specifically the square bases, so it's still going to be ranks, and it's still going to be, units and rank in probably the same system. And the same way that the Horus Heresy is staying with 7th edition, they may just resurrect whatever the last Warhammer Fantasy version was. They may stick with that.
Sure. Yeah. The difference between the Horus Heresy and Warhammer Old World, or I guess the way to say this, Horus Heresy and modern Warhammer 40K and Warhammer Old World and Age of Sigmars, I actually understand the Horus Heresy modern 40K thing because it's clear timeline, I guess, but I don't really understand. I never jumped on the Age of Sigmar thing. Recently, I'm starting to look at it because of the Tomb Kings rollout. They're not Tomb Kings, they're something else.
Right.
So maybe I'll read up on the Age of Sigmar, but I just don't get to... What is Age of Sigmar? Yeah,
and even at the very beginning, it was very kind of indistinct. The world ended, Archeon ended the world, and then
they're fighting in heaven,
right?
Or
it's kind of like where it's like these. It's kind of like these pocket dimensions or these realms. They call them realms, and it's just like a realm of death, a realm of
chaos.
Fire.
Yeah.
So it's basically giving a home to each of these different kinds of factions, and it was very unclear because originally,
and then you got like what looks like the militia,
right?
The Empire militia fighting, and you're like, wow, that's quite a departure from these Sigmar guys.
Yes. They started this, and they had the Stormcast Eternals, which are so basically like fantasy space marines. And originally they seemed like they were going to be enchanted armor. They were just the dead souls of the old world that possess this armor. But then they started taking their helmets off, and they're just humans. And then there's just these human civilizations in certain realms. They're just peasants and villages that are under siege from chaos. So they're slowly recreating what they had in the old world.
Right. So like I'm reading about the Tomb Kings Mark II.
Yes.
And so they're doing a big thing about the undead, and I'm reading about Nagash. And so I was like, oh, okay, what's the new Nagash? And I'm reading, I'm like, this is the old Nagash.
Right. Yeah.
This is exact same as what, when I bought the original undead. No, they don't call them codexes. They call them, what do they call them? Army books?
Army books, yeah.
Maybe.
For fantasy. I think so, yeah.
But yeah, it's a great story. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't change it, but it's the exact same story.
Right.
So how are they going to differentiate between Nagash and the Age of Sigmar and Nagash in Warhammer? I don't know. It's like, we're going to be telling that story about Nagash, but you were never telling that story with Nagash. You were
right.
Like with the Skaven and all that. I don't know.
It's odd, yeah. And there's not.
I'm happy, but I'm confused.
Yes,
yeah,
right. For a lot of people that are going to get into it, they just want to forget that the whole End Times and Age of Sigmar even happened, and just kind of stay, frozen in that
Close
world.
My eyes.
Right. Yeah. Because if they come out with new models, and even if they are going to be resin, Forge World resin, they'll still be interesting, and they'll fit probably stylistically, because I think the style of some of the newer factions and things that they're doing for Age of Sigmar don't look fantasy. They look something else. There's kind of a steampunk weird element, and they're very stylized and very, more like War Machine and Hordes kind of competitors than they would be something that would feel at home in Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah, I didn't really get the appeal of Age of Sigmar until I read this article. I get it now. Age of Sigmar is for people who like to paint and that are all about that side of the hobby. The painters, they want the showpieces.
Yeah.
as opposed to the gamers. And here's the thing: if it's Forge World doesn't appeal to the gamers because it's too expensive.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And is Age of Sigmar? Is it stable enough? Is it enough of an interest, a moneymaker for Games Workshop that they can introduce fantasy and not just have everybody defect back to fantasy?
Well, it's pretty telling because like all the computer stuff doesn't really draw upon Age of Sigmar. It draws upon Warhammer: The Old World.
Right.
So when they did the rollout, they're like talking about, hey, and as you know, like when we do Vermintide. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So Vermintide, it's never really gone away.
Yeah.
So they're...
after they destroyed the old world, the end times happened, then they just kept introducing all these games that were set, PC games that were set in that world. You're like, and I think what happened is they were realizing they were actually recruiting or getting people interested in the game. And they're like, yeah, there's the game. It's called Age of Sigmar. And they're like, no, that's not the game. I want this fantasy, this grimdark fantasy game that you showed me on my PC. Yeah. And no, that game doesn't exist anymore. So maybe they've realized that.
And all the role-playing games, like, so they license it out and everybody's doing like, okay, let's Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which is the old world.
Yes, right.
Yeah. No, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I guess I know where most of my retirement money is going. And I guess when people were complaining, it takes about $1,000 to put together a decent fantasy army, that'll be nothing compared to what Forge World is going to charge you to build a fantasy army.
So young. So naive. Well, the other big news, there's actually a few things that came up this week, but one big thing in the gaming / nerd community was Kathleen Kennedy's Rolling Stone article. In particular, I mean, she did a few things. I mean, she laid claim to The Mandalorian.
Right. That was all my idea.
Yeah, so George Lucas came in and... he liked what we were doing, not just Jon Favreau. But I think the thing that really caught the people was when she said, like, every one of these movies is a particularly hard nut to crack. Mm-hmm. There's no source material. We don't have comic books. We don't have 800-page novels.
Right.
Yeah. As you can imagine, immediately everyone was like, what about the expanded universe? Yeah,
right. The EU that you killed. Yeah.
Disney killed that. But yeah, the way she phrased it made it look like she didn't even know it was there or existed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the EU is not canon, but you can still draw from or revive. I mean, they did. I mean, Timothy Zahn did the Thrawn trilogy or the original Thrawn trilogy. I don't think it was called that in the beginning, but now that's what it's called because everybody loved Thrawn, and they're like, okay, let's bring back Thrawn and put him in Rebels, and then they went, hey, Timothy, could you write some more stuff? And he did. And it's actually better than the original. So they can certainly draw from that. And then Dark Horse had some pretty good comics. I didn't really read the Dark Empire I did read, which is pretty good. And actually, they're probably going to draw from that, but not credit it in Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker? Yeah. Yeah, they did a good job marketing that with all the clone stuff because pretty sure we're going to be seeing a clone of the Emperor. Right. But they're going to be like, oh, yeah. Well, was that in the comic? Because Kathleen Kennedy has no idea there's Star Wars comics. Yeah. Yeah, I learned that Kevin Feige is going to be doing like a Star Wars movie. And in the past, he actually expressed interest in the beginning before A Force Awakens. He said, oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind being in Star Wars. I'm like, oh, no, thanks.
Wow.
And now they're like, sure, you want to be in Star Wars? Come on in. Right. Yeah. You know that hotshot director, Jon Favreau? Bring him in. Yeah. When you make a comment that says that suggests that you're unaware of all the material that's out there.
Yeah.
Like even George Lucas made reference to all that stuff and said like, oh, that's out there to draw upon. Yeah.
And the same way that, they did with the Marvel movies. They drew upon kind of the greatest hits of Marvel comics or the greatest events for characters. And it wasn't a one-to-one, like Planet Hulk wasn't represented particularly well, but it was, there was enough of that spirit and that what was cool about that setting or that adventure. They definitely could have that.
Yeah, and if you got somebody like Disney buying up all this stuff, yeah. And another movie news was the bomb of Charlie's Angels. Yeah,
I didn't even know. I guess being in Japan,
it could have bombed quietly.
Yes.
But then Elizabeth Banks, the producer, writer, director, and star of Charlie's Angels, said that. I mean, she said a lot of stuff.
Yes, she did.
One of the things was, men don't want to see women in action movies. Yeah, ignoring Terminator, Alien,
every Mila Jovovich movie.
Yeah, Resident Evil. Yeah. The previous Charlie's Angels. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Maybe Charlie's Angels was more popular. It wasn't popular because of the IP. It was popular because it had Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That just kind of suddenly appeared, and I guess because we weren't getting any of the marketing for it in America.
I don't think anybody was getting the marketing.
Yeah,
I think everybody was like really surprised. Well, it was on this weekend.
Yeah. Well, they said that Sony kind of bailed on it and cut the marketing budget in half because they just lost faith. I guess they looked at the previous two movies and they made about $100 million each, and they're like, okay, so we can safely budget it this much. And when they realized they couldn't get a script working and the casting
it was like 4 years of development for that.
It was very odd.
And a lot of that, was with the script.
And when you look at the images, the promotional images that they took, it's like one of the actresses is really, really tall and making the other girls look childish. And
I think like Kristen Stewart is not a big person.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's quite petite. That dynamic. I mean, what are you going to like if you're trying to sell Kristen Stewart as an action star, and she's the only one, people will look at that picture and go, I know her.
Right.
I don't know the other two. But then if she's being dwarfed by the one in the middle, and no disrespect to the one in the middle. I mean, yeah, she looks great. It actually diminishes. It looks like she's protecting the other two. And like, sure, like I don't want to say don't cast tall people,
right.
But if you look at the original Charlie's Angels, it might have been a thing. They're all kind of about the same size. Yeah. And I'll say this, like, there are like certain movies like Jack Reacher 2. I'm not a big Jack Reacher fan, but I did watch Jack Reacher 2. And Colby Smulders, right? Mm-hmm. Canada's own. You see in that movie, she went to the gym. She put in some major work. And I haven't seen the movie yet, but Terminator Dark Fate, another Canadian, I don't know if this is Mackenzie Davis, I think her name is.
Oh, yeah.
She's kind of
So she's basically the Kyle Reese in that story because she comes back to protect.
Okay, maybe the Kyle Reese. Yeah. I'm just thinking because, spoiler, John Connor dies. But he apparently dies right away. So
immediately, in 5 minutes in.
I don't think he's any lines because I think they recast Edward Furlong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because he's had a lot of problems. So like, you felt brave enough to cast. Oh, no, you gave him the lines. Okay, I understand now.
Just say the lines and headshot. Okay.
You look at that. I mean, she's slim. She's a slim person, but she went to the gym.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she put in some time. And, I respect that. But when I look at somebody and I'm like, he didn't put in the time. Like, if it was a man action star and he didn't put time in the gym, he would get battered, pummeled for.
Well, Power Fist. What was the Netflix series? Yeah, he was a Game of Thrones actor.
Yes,
and people were saying, a little doughy for a superhero.
When he talked about the first season, they were also criticizing the fight scenes, and he said like he had like 2 weeks training prior, and then they would do fight scenes, and they'd be telling him right before, here's how you do the fight scene. There was like no rehearsal, no prep. That's a good example of guy that doesn't look like he's put in the time, then he's gonna get hammered.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's standard. I mean, even people that you're not even going to actually see their body, like the new Spider-Man, like takes off his shirt and he's all cut. He's like, looks like a little 15-year-old kid, but he's all...
Tom Holland.
Yeah, Tom Holland. Yes, okay, that's unnecessary, but I guess that's what we think of as with superheroes.
Was it Marvel or DC or somebody? Maybe neither, but they're like, once you get the superhero gene, whether you transformed into it or you are a mutant, then it might even been Aberrant from The White Wolf. Way back in the day. But they're like, once you have your superhero, I think it was from Aberrant. And they're like, your body becomes like really like sexy and like toned and cut because like the gene is just like burning off all the fat and stuff like that. Yeah.
Instant ketosis. Right?
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Aberrant, it has been relaunched. I got my Trinity Continuum. I got the core book and the Trinity setting. So people unfamiliar with Aberrant, they released this thing. Well, what was it? Aeon Trinity was the science fiction one, and then there was Aberrant, which was the superhero one, and then Adventure was the pulp one. So kind of that's the Trinity. I haven't finished reading it, but it's looking really good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Oh, and you also pledged
Cyberpapacy, for TORG. Yeah,
nice. All right,
my streak's alive. Yeah, I keep pledging everything for that. Again, the box. I think it's called the Bishop. So I keep doing the box. It was what $200 for the box, and then I got shipping. Yeah, it's nice. You get hardcover books of the TORG series. I think Nihil Empire was the most popular. People unfamiliar with that's TORG's pulp setting, but I think Cyberpapacy was the most creative, which is you take cyberpunk plus Catholicism or plus the Vatican, and you're like, why would you combine those? I don't know, but they did. Pretty happy with that. We've done some unboxings. We're going to be uploading those. But so we've got Living Land, Lyal Empire had already been received. Isle, which is the fantasy one, that's coming. And Cyberpapacy. So I still got the horror one, the Japan one, although they expanded beyond Japan, and the techno demons.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Just now, actually, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, I got the new Space Marine Codex with Imperial Fists.
Oh, nice.
And the reason why I got Imperial Fists, as you know, is I've created a new chapter with a dark past, which is probably what everybody does, yeah.
right.
Which they're not actually a successor chapter of the Imperial Fists. They're a successor chapter of something more controversial.
Nice.
But then I was like reading about the White Scars, and I was like, man, these guys are pretty badass too. But so I got the White Scars book too.
Oh, cool.
Wow, I just can't stop because I also got Eldar. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I'm pretty excited about that. And the connection between the Imperial Fists and White Scars, thinking like, wow, they're so different and divergent. They were both at Terra, the Battle of Terra.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I got them. And then I also got the Battletech box set because I pledged Clan Invasion. And that pledge manager just opened up.
Oh.
And it's so glorious.
Yeah,
Because now I got to choose which mechs I'm going to get.
Oh,
and
cool.
I'm just like, I actually did it in like an Excel sheet. And I was like, okay, I've got these slots that I can pick. And then I added this extra money to buy extra stuff.
Right.
It's going to blow your mind, Battletech fans. But you can still get in on this Clan Invasion.
Oh, cool.
And people who are not fans of the clan, they also have the comm guards. What? What? Blow your mind. So that they're my slots. Everybody who's not Battletech, like, what? The one person like listening to this, like, I came here for your indie games. What are you talking about, Battletech? Where's the Twitter drama on this weekly? You have some gaming news. Like you played a game on the weekend, right?
Oh, right.
No.
Yeah. Chris ran trophy for John and I. So we had kind of a small group. This is something that I guess there's been already a few sessions at the Jig RPG, the monthly meeting. So Chris said, we got to try this out. This is my new favorite thing. And so
I see trophy coming up all the time on Twitter, but I've never played it. I haven't really explored it to it. So what is trophy like?
The basic setting is dark fantasy and your treasure hunters invading or exploring.
Yeah.
Kind of enchanted forest. Most of the setting, and basically it's intended to be a one-shot. You know that by the end of this session, your character's probably going to die. How are they going to die? Like what brought them to their end, and what is a satisfying conclusion to their story? Okay.
So trophy is what you thought you were going to get, but you're really going to die?
Yeah, right. So it's just kind of, it's more like Fiasco or something where it's kind of like you're not planning to, you should plan for the worst because that's probably going to happen. And you may survive. And that's what kind of happened on the weekend. We kind of survive, but I think we were in a situation that we weren't going to be able to get out of. So if we could have kept playing it, that would have been the end of us. So the idea is that all of the magic in this setting is based on kind of druidic power from this forest. And you have I'm forgetting what it's called. It's a corruption track, basically. And when you create your character, you can choose rituals, which are additional powers that allow you to manipulate people and use this kind of dark magic. But the more rituals that you know, the more advanced you are on this track. And you're always rolling against that track to see if you're successful at doing something. So it's a track like 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 1 to 6.
Okay.
And if you ever reach 6, then that's the end of your character. You're completely consumed by this power. But the setting that we played was a little bit different. So we didn't play kind of an original setting. It was something that Chris had from kind of an exclusive download. It was an investigation, kind of a mystery story. So that it was a serpent-themed mystery in this town, in this fort. Actually, it was a fort town that we were.
But it's fantasy, right?
Yes, but it's all dark fantasy. But we didn't interact with the forest at all. So in the forest, so it was basically just people we were interacting with.
Right.
And the idea in this setting is that monsters and beasts are unbeatable. You don't have anything that can kill them. So if you're going to confront anything that's a beast or a monster, you will die. There is no combat against beasts. But against people, you can manipulate them. You can do things to them. You can harm them. And it's not instant kill. So basically, you're evading all encounters with monsters and powerful creatures. And this didn't have any of that. It just had a kind of strange corruption in this fort that was different from the forest corruption. So it was a different evil that we were investigating. And we were investigating this for the same motivation. We wanted money. Like, we wanted to be rewarded for solving what was going on. And I won't go into any details in case somebody wants to play it, because it will spoil everything.
Absolutely.
But you can tell from the cover of the incursion, it's a snake theme. And so that basically what you're up against. And it's a nice system. I wish we could have started with a little bit more vanilla or kind of original setting to really get the tone of it.
Yeah, I think that's always my preference when you start a game, is like start with what kind of the original designers or whatever think the game is. Like, for example, when you get a book or a role-playing game and they got an intro adventure in that book, play the intro adventure. Like, get a feel, and then completely scrap your characters if you want or whatever, and do your own thing. But ease into it. But this definitely sounds like something where what's the original, so I can really appreciate when it's going off.
I was having trouble with the two kinds of corruption that were happening. So do we have any control over this? Is this giving us, are we benefiting from this, or we're just getting weirder? Right. So it's very interesting, and the structure of it is nice. It basically, Chris explained it as there's kind of these concentric circles of the adventure, and you're kind of narrowing, like there's things that move you, and usually it's locations, usually it's geographical. Yeah. But in this case, it was, we kind of we discovered these parts of the mystery, and it moved us closer and closer to this very crazy climax of the story. And I guess I'm forgetting the original system that it's based on, but kind of a Cthulhu mythos idea. Right. So it's that idea. So I guess
eventually you're going to go insane.
Right.
But it also sounds like those stories where greed is going to lead it never ends well. So is Trophy like powered by the apocalypse, where people contribute to different things, or is one group producing these trophy stuff? Oh, no, a
lot of different people are contributing. And so you can have things that are like alien adventures on a spaceship, or you can have more Cthulhu. Yeah, there's a couple of... Recently they had a bundle in November that they sold that was a bunch of different incursions. Thematically, the system works in a lot of different ways, but it's always kind of a doomed adventure. So it plays best as one session, and you're just kind of forcing your way through this ever-tightening, more intense story.
What does it say about our community? We're all about, like, it's all going to end. We're all doomed.
Right.
Where's the hope?
It is very similar to Powered by the Apocalypse in that you have successes with consequences. So unless you roll a 6 in most cases, you succeed, but something is going wrong. You're suffering some effect. It's complications.
On the scale, it's more on the narrative side.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
A pre-structured narrative, because the kind of character classes you choose from and the rituals you choose from. And then also, I'm forgetting, you have like a motivation or a kind of like what you're trying, like your dream. If you were completely successful and found the treasure, what you would do with that treasure, what you would do with your success.
Right.
So your characters have that as their motivation.
Yeah.
So that, especially in this one, we didn't get to that point, but that really comes into play where you're tempted by your motivation in the story. So I think they're all structured to play a piece of this puzzle and have it collapse in on itself.
Right.
But tell an interesting, dark story.
Sure, yeah. But it is kind of funny that a lot of these games are, and not just narrative games, because you see, like you said, Call of Cthulhu is. Eventually it's going to go bad for you.
Right.
But even Call of Cthulhu, like roll out Pulp Cthulhu, because then you could actually kill these guys.
It's a nice, elegant system, and the way that it can play in
what
any
dice
genre.
Does it use?
It's just D6s. You just roll
D6.
Yeah, it's not 2D6 like Powered by the Apocalypse. It's a little bit more complicated. There's dark and light dice.
Right.
And for each action you take that would have some consequences, you kind of have to put things on the line. So there's like a bargain with the devil that you have to take that will give you terrible consequences, but give you an additional die to roll. So you're trying to beat your corruption number to be successful, but only a 6 is a no consequence success.
Okay, yeah.
So you kind of promise ahead of time, okay, this bad thing happens to me regardless of the result of the dice. Like I lose my weapon, or I'm.
Do you get something for that? Like if you promise it,
you just get another die. Like you get a better chance of success.
Okay,
and you can push the roll as well, but you cannot push the roll if a light die wasn't your highest score. So if you keep rolling higher than so you have light and dark dice, and if the light die is higher but doesn't give you success, you can re-roll. And so you can keep re-rolling, add an additional dark die and roll. It's a nice system, but we weren't rolling well enough enough that we actually pushed any of our rolls. We were getting okay successes, so just kind of stuff just
that
kept
seems to be
happening.
like a recent theme, like pushing rolls and stuff. Because like free league games,
right. The Year Zero engine.
System. Yeah. It's funny, like when people talk about like the evolution of game design, and you're like, yeah, there is an evolution of game design because you keep building, but there's certainly like design fads or the design of the day. We're right now in the push system. And you're describing trophy, and it's like, I mean, if you think you then would switch over to describing Powered by the Apocalypse, people are like, what's it?
You never roll that many, but it's an interesting system, and I think trying it in different settings would be very rewarding and fun, because once you learn basically what you want to do with that system.
So the original is fantasy.
The original idea, the original setting is a dark forest, and you're
right.
Basically,
Okay.
They had a contest to write incursions, and actually they're going to be doing.
So incursions is really adventures.
Yes, just the kind of the one shot adventure.
I'm just bringing it down. Bringing it down for the people.
But I still don't know what the game master is called. But they're going to be doing a Kickstarter, and so they're going to separate things. They're kind of going to do the classic adventures that are forest based, and then everything.
Because nothing's in print, or what are they kickstarting?
Yeah, everything is digital right now. So everything is kind of a small zine size, like a small B6 size booklets that you print out. So it's all digital, and so they're going to be doing books for everything that's been developed so far, and also a system agnostic book of settings. So settings that have, because the incursions have to be very detailed and very specific. And so I think a lot of interesting ideas and fun worlds have been invented for Trophy, and they're going to do a collection of those settings without having to play them in the incursion structure. One thing I wanted to mention is currently Humble Bundle, because we keep talking about the Humble Bundles, they're running their Pathfinder cache. So they're doing a combination of first edition Pathfinder. So all the books, like digital versions, DRM free, of all the books for first edition, all the main stuff. So the core book, and then all the main supporting books, plus a collection of Dynamite comics that are set in that world.
Oh yeah, Dynamite. Comixology's got this gaming sale right now.
Yeah, right.
Of Pathfinder. I was like, oh, it's a Pathfinder comic.
Yeah, so the Rune Lords, the kind of Rise of the Rune Lords, they're kind of iconic characters from that setting are in those comics. And they're interesting characters, and they
we got the you mentioned it a few weeklies ago, but the Rogue Trader Humble Bundle, that was really nice.
Yeah, that's a lot of books. Yeah,
that was. Normally like, sometimes I might not want to get like so much stuff or so many PDFs, but I was like, nah, that was an amazing deal.
Yeah. And these are nice because they stick around. Like you have them as a permanent download. So for the audiobooks or PDFs for games, they're there forever. With your account. So so check that out. We'll put a link for that bundle in the description. And they say $276 worth of stuff for as little as $1. So
Paizo prices their PDFs really nicely from what I've seen. So if they're saying like you're saving that much on the Paizo stuff, you were getting like a ton of stuff. Yeah, that Rogue Trader thing was unbelievable.
That was nice.
That's not just me trying to sell Humble Bundle. I was just like, because I actually sold my print copy of Rogue Trader because we weren't playing it, and I was like trying to clear up some space. But then I saw that, I was like, gotta have all this.
We got a comment on our YouTube channel for the video for the unboxing of the Alien RPG. It was from Matthew Tyler Jones, a writer for the adventure that they did that was run in Gen Con, and I guess at the UK Games Expo. So this is someone that I think we should reach out to and talk about this, because he's got a lot of insight to what was included in the core book for Alien as opposed to what was originally written. His comment was, Hope's Last Day, which is included in the core book, is much shorter than Chariot of the Gods. The issue was that when Free League put the book together, they simply didn't have the page count to fit Chariot in. So that's why it's a separate paperback booklet. So Chariot of the Gods is a separate booklet. And as Effect co-host, Dave and I have already created 3 linked 1-act adventures to run at the UK Games Expo.
Right.
They asked them to slim those down into a very tight word count, and they got rid of the Union Band, so one of the whole groups of characters. So Hope's Last Dance, that was originally the Hadley's Hope setting.
The Gen Con one. Right,
Gen Con and UK Games Expo became Hope's Last Day, which is what was published in the core book.
Okay.
So they're really proud of that, because their pre-gen characters got their own portraits and everything. So on the cards that are the play aid for the set, they have their characters from that adventure that are depicted.
Okay.
And with the character sheet on the back.
Yeah.
I think it would be fun to talk to him a little bit about that process and how it was developed. Just like we're going to be talking to the creator of Chariots of the Gods, we got permission from Free League to do that. So I would definitely want to reach out to.
Yeah, we should eventually give a review of the actual campaign book.
Yes.
Or the core book. I guess.
Right. Because campaign I think is a very different animal from the cinematic.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to look at what they're doing with that. And I've heard people kind of going back and forth, kind of mixed opinions about if they gave game masters or game mothers enough to actually create their own. Like they said in other books that Free League has done, like Coriolis, there's a nicer system for kind of generating things in this world. And basically in the Alien core book, it's just tables for right now. And you don't have a real great idea of what to do in this setting. Yeah. So we'll see. So
something to follow up on. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So look for that review of the final book, the published core book for Alien RPG. So if people want to get in touch with you, Lyal, you are running the Idle Red Hands
Twitter account. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So people can hit you up on Twitter and tell you what a great film Charlie's Angels actually was.
Sure. Yeah. I'd rather talk about the Purge TV series.
Oh, nice.
Whatever. And we'll be doing something on The Mandalorian, a little bit more detail coming up. So certainly look out for that episode when we talk about The Mandalorian. That should be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And if you'd like to get in touch with Idle Red Hands, of course, the website is idleredhands.com, on Twitter at Idle Red Hands, and on Instagram as well. And if you'd like to support us and see some content that you're not going to see on our YouTube channel.
You're going to be rolling out something for our Patreon only, some extra content pretty soon. Yeah. So, we'll have some, and a lot of our drunken casts, I think, are going to live happily on the Patreon. So anything that we haven't released because it got a little slurry will probably be something you can find on Patreon. Right. So please visit patreon.com/idleredhands. So that's it for this week. We'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
On and on, some sun.